These were left behind by al-Qaeda. Do they possibly have nuclear weapons? I mean, they gave you the evidence. I mean, one more, the only thing, further evidence that we're going to have of the nuclear attack, of course, is that the destruction and the desolation that awaits us.
Do you have some questions there that came in from our viewers?
Yeah, Jan wanted to know, when we were talking about storing up drinking water, which Paul and I have been doing that for over a year, and we've got some food too. But she said, what is the potassium oxide for?
Iodine.
Okay.
Iodide, but iodine. Just get iodine. You know, like iodine. You used to use iodine for cuts and stuff like that. You can rub it on your skin, and it will protect your thyroid from a dirty nuclear attack. It's a very important thing to have, yeah. Potassium iodide tablets are very inexpensive, but for heaven's sake, get them.
And where do you get them?
You can get them anywhere. Get them online. You can get them from a health food store. They're not expensive.
Great question.
But if you can't get them, at least get some iodine.
Okay.
All you need to do, Jamie, is just rub it in your skin and rub it on your thyroid glands, and yeah, it'll protect you.
Okay. And Margie had a question. She said, if there's about 6 million Muslim people here in the U.S., would they destroy their own people when they bomb the U.S. or if they attack us? What about their people? The
answer to that is most certainly yes. Most certainly yes. We are not, you know, if you look at Europe right now, you look at France, you have about 15% of the population Islamic, which is incredible. It's incredible in 2007. Because, you know, the French people, the French woman, now the average French family couple have offspring that equate to 1.2. Muslim families equate to 6.4. Now, that means that the 15% now in France is growing by leaps and bounds. 45% of the young people in France right now, under the ages of 45, are Muslim.
Well, that's one of these strategies, isn't it, to overcome a country?
Right. But they are overrunning these countries. Within less than a generation, they will be Islamic countries. Now, here that hasn't happened. But once again, they have infiltrated these countries, and they're overrunning them in a matter that's much more effective than the jihad. Here, it's a different story.
Okay. And Laura wanted to know, why are all the hotels and motels seem to be bought up by Muslims? Do you know? Because,
you know, this is another thing about our system of government. In Saudi Arabia, an American cannot own a grain of sand. If you die there, you cannot be buried there because you will pollute their soil. You cannot own a facility there. I mean, you can't. That is holy ground. Here, of course, Saudis can own everything, and they do. That's part of our globalism. These people have money. They have money from oil, and the dower is very cheap. And you know, America has sold itself out, and sure, they'll buy anything.
Well, and somebody wanted to know, do you think we're going to have to reinstate the draft?
Well, you see, the old style draft that Paul and I were exposed to, the day and age, in this day and age, the infantry will not be the force that will decide victory. We have smart bombs. We have Air Force. You know, the smart bombs, the technology that we have, the bunker bombs, etc. That will decide. But I can't imagine, for instance, infantry. Of course, we're using the infantry right now as a state police, and they're not trained that way. I mean, soldiers are trained to be soldiers. They're trained for combat. And like even right now in Iraq, they're not being used for combat. They're being used to police. So I can't see that. I can't see the draft coming back. Well, maybe, you know. But I'm going to tell you, by the time bin Laden's finished with us, well, who are we going to draft?
Going back to bin Laden, there's a story in your book about his brother. He was living in Florida at the time of 9/11. What happened there?
Well, right after 9/11, President George W. Bush, who has very tight ties with the Saudis and business arrangements with the Saudis, conducted something, and I am a conservative Republican, conducted something called the Arab Airlift. He took all of his Arabian friends who were well-heeled, like Khalid, Sheikh Mohammed, and he gave them safe passage at our expense back to Saudi Arabia. By the way, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed went from Saudi Arabia to South America, where he is right now very, very much involved in planning for the American Hiroshima.
The other question I had, I'm trying to put this together in my mind. You truly believe there will be an American Hiroshima in time. Is that correct?
Paul,
is there any way around it?
When you forget me, I'm a jerk. Okay. I'm a newspaper man, but I have nothing to sell. I'm at the end, I don't care if somebody buys my book. Look, I'm being sued by so much that look at any way you try to help me, I'm already a goner. And I just want to go on and enter my father's house justified, and I am headed for that. But when you hear this message, not from me, when you hear it from Robert Mueller, when you hear it from Chertoff, when you hear it from the highest elected officials in the land and the most knowledgeable people in the land, when you're hearing it even from the editor of the New York Times, and you're hearing it from General Eugene Habiger, who is in charge of strategic weapons at the Pentagon, if you're not going to believe these guys, who are you going to believe? And the evidence I've shown you the evidence, the empirical evidence, the evidence that you can touch has already been uncovered. It's not like we're talking about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We already have the nuclear material left behind by Al-Qaeda. So if you don't think that they're going to use the nukes, they didn't buy these nukes or develop these nukes to keep them in the cave. I mean, if you think that, you need to have your head examined because you're crazy.
I'm thinking, from the point of view of our average viewer out there, that the bombs go off, the Muslims come out of the holes. Who protects us then? Will we have any kind of protection as a citizen then?
The answer? No. Who is going to protect you? Who is going to protect you? When you have millions of people dead, I'll tell you who's going to protect you, Paul. You're going to protect yourself.
That's what I was
and you better be prepared to protect your families. And that you better, and this is, people can look at me and say, well, Williams, you're nuts. I don't care. You better have a gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's should that happen? I grew up thinking the government was my protector. And the government was honest, and the government was basically on my side. But over the years, that's got less and less that way, okay? I'm feeling very alone right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like it is my responsibility to protect myself now. And I never thought I would live to see that point in our country. But that's the way I feel now. I feel alone. Is that a true feeling?
We are alone. Let me tell you how bad it is. We are engaged in a war, as you know, a war on terror, which is a war on a word. We are even incapable of defining the enemy. Right. When you say a war on terror, what does that mean, George W.? What terror? We're really at war on terror? Are we going to go to Northern Ireland and round up the Irish next? I mean, who are we at war with? We are so weak and lack such resolve, we can't even define. I'll tell you who we're at war with. We're at war with everyone that signed that fatwa, that declaration of war against us of 1998. That was not only Al-Qaeda, that was also Hamas, Hezbollah, the Moro Liberation Group, and 75 other Islamic groups throughout the world. We're at war with every one of them. And unless we can address that problem, no, we are not safe and we are not secure. And thinking that what we're doing right now in Iraq is helping create a better world, if you believe that, once again, you need to have your head examined. The very first stipulation of this new democracy, this new constitution in Iraq, was to impose Sharia law on the people of Iraq. Sharia law is now in effect thanks to us in Iraq, which means that Christians are being persecuted there like never before.
Right.
In Syria, as I'm speaking to you, there are 300,000 Christian refugees from Iraq. We've created that. Christians are being crucified in Iraq. This is the lack of being able and capable of defining the enemy. The enemy is radical Islam in all of its manifestations. The radical mosque, Jamaat al-Fuqra, the terrorist groups who signed that fatwa. It's really not hard to ferret out, guys.
You know, the question comes to my mind, why isn't the government doing more? If they're aware of this information that you know they probably know this, don't they?
I met with them. I met with the
Why aren't they doing more about trying to find these weapons, destroy them, destroy the source?
I was just reading the front page of the Midland paper today, and they were talking about the need for us to recruit more workers from Mexico, because because the oil riggers, this should be a highly paid job. Oh, we can't get the workers now from a place like Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. We have to get them from Mexico. This is part of it's all because of the economy. We have to keep the border. The very first thing you do in a state of war, is you have Congress declare war. Mm-hmm. If you want to have war, have war. Right. Let's not have a police action like we had in Korea or Vietnam, or we're having right now in Iraq. If we want to have war, let's have war. That means you shut down the borders. That means you bring in the Smith Act and the Voorhees Act so that the FBI can go into these radical mosques and ferret out the problems. That means that they can go into the Islamic Center, that many of these colleges, and place these jokers in concentration camps, in detention camps. That's what has to be done. But if you're going to have war, have war. Don't use our guys, who are the best guys in the world, as a state police.
I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of the mentality right now. Afraid of offending anyone. Afraid of offending the Muslims. Well, if Muslims offend me.
It still doesn't make sense to me. If the government knows about all of these things, what are they going to just do? Stand by and let it happen? Aren't they going to be affected too?
Paul, it is so daft. The FBI right now will not use Israeli translators. Will not use them. Will not use Jewish translators, who are the best, the most reliable translators of Arabic in the world. Oh no. We have to translate, we have to recruit for the FBI now, for special agents, Muslims. If you're a Muslim and you could be the biggest jerk in the world, they will take you in the FBI and they will make you a special agent, and you will have access to the most sensitive information in the world.
Is this political